Pregame.com.
Chicago plus 8.5 at Philadelphia, Monday Night Football. All right, Marco, this is going to be a good teaching moment for the viewers, is you don't have to bet every Monday night game. Sometimes the line's right. In fact, a lot of the times the line's right. And I think it's fine to have a recreational amount of a bet. You know, whatever that means to someone. It might mean $3, it might mean $300. That'd be nice. 300. That's not for me. But I'll drive across town 4 times for $300. But the fact of the matter is, I think the line, as it currently stands, is right. It did open Eagles -7. Maybe there was some value on Philly. It's up to 8.5. What's your observations?
Well, first of all, the line from 7, going to the 8.5, I think that's a move where the books are trying to get away from the teaser money, because there's going to be at 7.
But if the books wanted to get away from the teaser money, they would have opened it at 9.
Well, yeah, you could, but then you're going to have the sharps come in and take the
But
dog
once
if
it
they
gets
want.
once it gets to 9 to get the teaser protection, they're going to be exposed to the dogs with bigger limits on Sunday.
True enough, but does one game justify this move on Philadelphia?
And that's the discussion. That's the discussion.
Because there's no question that last Sunday night the Philadelphia Eagles played like all of the talk of the that we heard all August when they signed those players when the lockout was over and deemed this the dream team.
And here's the question, though. It's funny because when you're only 8-9 games in a season, you still got to extrapolate from how other teams do. How good are the Cowboys really? Well, not so good on the field last Sunday night, but let's be honest, look at the Rams. Look at the way things can just swing around, or look at the Saints. Look like the best team in the league, and then maybe got beat by could be the worst team in the league.
It goes back to my old saying. How many times have I said it? Nobody's as good as their best game, or are they as bad as their worst game?
I thought your saying was that I will never go to a place that doesn't have unlimited iced tea. Is that... Well, come on. All right, but let's get back to the keys here.
Sometime, guys, I am going to tape when we go to actually eat, and you guys will see that my man next to me can go mano, and maybe knock Marco out at the eating table.
At the buffet?
Yeah.
You're nuts.
Yeah. You're the only guy that I've ever bought lunch for at Taco Bell that it cost me $20 for lunch at Taco Bell. Okay, and that's a fact.
Well, I like.
You were hungry that day?
It was $6. All right, listen. Let's get serious. First off, I know when you spend $6, it's something you remember 6 weeks later. But let's not distract people with that. Here to me, let's talk about buys, let's actually talk about how good Philly is, and then by extension how good Dallas is New England doesn't seem quite as good. And really, what's been the Dallas win that gets people excited? It was almost beating New England. Mm-hmm. Is there a little bit of shine off that now when you see the Steelers manhandle them?
I think still because it was the Steelers.
What's the Dallas win that impresses you?
Dallas doesn't have a win that impresses me. That's the problem.
All right, so what I'm saying is how meaningful. We know we don't want to overreact to one game no matter what. Maybe Dallas was a little bit exposed in that game. But right now, one of the new things we launched this week, and we talked about in one other video, is VegasRankings.com, which is we collect the private power rankings from some of the biggest names in Vegas. We create a consensus. And right now, the Eagles are the 6th best team in the league based upon that consensus. So now that's the guys that literally millions of dollars are affected by their opinion. These guys are booking millions of dollars on a Sunday. So the question is this just a fundamental question of how good Philly is? Because if you think Philly's the 6th best team, then 7 was a play, 8.5 might be a pass, but 7 was a play. If you think Philly isn't the 6th best team, they're the 10th or 11th or 12th, then isn't all the value on the dog?
Well, I think Philly is overrated from one game. I need to see a couple games in a row. And here's the thing, prior to the last 2 games for Philadelphia, where they held Washington to 13 and they held Dallas to 7. This team was getting torched defensively. Did they do something magical that fixed this defense? In the one stat that sticks out is the last 2 weeks, teams only ran for 42 and 85 yards against them. But I'm going to be quick to point out, both the Washington game and the Dallas game, Philly stormed out to huge leads early, which when you fall behind by more than 2 scores early, your game plan is out the window. You're not running. So is the defense really better, or is it that nobody was running on him? Because prior to that, every team was running for 143, 164, 154. This was not a good defense.
Let's talk teasers for a second, then we're going to talk buys. A lot of talk about buys this year. Let's talk about teaser protection. So 6-point teasers that move through 7 and 3 are positive EV if you play them blind. Right. So if you can take 2.5 or 2 or 1.5 up to 7.5, 8, 8.5, or 8.5, 8, and 7.5 down to past 3, at minus 110, you just play them blind and you're going to make a small amount of money. If you can find teams you actually like, even better. Okay, so what happens sometimes if a line gets up to 8.5, they're thinking, well, 9's not a very active number. We get to 9, we have teaser protection as the book. So oftentimes that move from 7.5 to 9 has less friction than, even though they're dead numbers, even less friction than other dead numbers like that.
Absolutely.
So we're taping on Tuesday. This game's 6 days from now. My guess is this line's 9.
There's actually a couple 9s out there right now.
So if you do want to tease this down, it really speaks. And most people are going to watch this Monday, so they're going to say, wow, they're right, or God, they're idiots. But the fact of the matter is, don't be afraid to play early in the week, especially if you have outs that will let you play. You got to have outs to play early in the week. And if you don't, you can't. Clearly, there's some logic for you. But if you don't have them, fight for them. Go find them, because if you see a teaser you like, you'll see it happen so much. And it also happens around 2, 1.5, and 1 and pick them, and not pick them so much because once you get to 1, you have your teaser protection, is lines will go from 2.5 to 1 really quick because once it shows it's not going to go to 3, they want to get that teaser protection. And I've had it happen so many times this year is I'll go down Friday night literally to play cards or something, or Saturday night, and especially Saturday night, I've been going to the MGM some nights, but Cantor has 110 over at the Tropicana on the teaser. So I'll walk over, and I'm shocked that from Saturday afternoon to Saturday night, the lines went from 2.5 to 1 or pick 'em really quick once they start pushing down. So don't be afraid to play early, because you certainly want to go through 3 and 7. Let's talk buys real quick. A lot of talk prior to last week that the buys were hurting teams now, that they were baked in to the number, but not being properly, or they were being over accounted for. Now, last week kind of changed. I think it went 4 and 2 for the buy people, and now it's 8, 9, and 1 on the season. But here's what's interesting, and I just uncovered this before taping. Of those 18 games, 14 have gone under. 14 and 4 under with teams a week after a bye. Now, is that statistically significant? No. But it's a situation where that's a pretty eye-popping number. Any speculation on that, on the cause of that?
One of the speculations would be, and I think it was one of the big problems at the beginning of the season, I think tackling and practicing was a...
And that's what Belichick was saying, and they talked about that. Sims talked about that in the Steelers podcast. But doesn't that run contrary to under?
No. If you're missing tackles, you're going to end up big plays are happening and sending these games over. Oh, but it's going to help us here. Yes, I think that the extra practice, that the teams are more crisp coming off the buys, and they're not having those broken plays that were 7-8.
Except that's logic. That if someone said teams are 4 and 14 to the under, 14 unders, 4 overs off a bye, then you would say, why do you think that is? The logic would be, well, their timing's a little messed up on offense would be one piece of logic, so it's staying under. Or 2 would be they're coming up, their defense is rested and they're really playing aggressively. But what's happening is Belichick, who, let's be honest, is one of the handful of guys in the world that really understands football, said that he watched every game. This is what Sim said during the Steelers telecast. He watched every team off a bye and said a lot of missed tackles, and you heard that too, were the result of the bye. But wouldn't that lend you, missed tackles goes over, but the numbers are 4 and 14 to the under. So this is what's making me not as quick to want to play under, because whenever you have a number that's not statistically significant, you need to have logic behind it. I can't explain why these are going under, so I'm not necessarily going to follow it. Is anything jump out at you why they're going under?
It doesn't. I know that typically as you go later in the season with the buys are more significant because teams are more banged up the further they go into the season, and you get players
the rest
back.
Is more meaningful.
The ones early in the season, and again, now that would be curious. That's a raw number if you broke it down.
Yeah, but when you're 4 and 14, you can't find a split that's not going to be extreme.
Right.
So, all right. Any closing thoughts?
I just think that my opinion is this line is a little bit overinflated off of one game. I can't believe 60 minutes of football can crown a team back to the dream team.
But it's back to what we said, is people are quick to believe what they believe to start with. And they're slow. We talked about that with Kansas City last week, and we were right. They're slow to believe that they were wrong, and now we're starting to wonder maybe KC wasn't so bad last year. The fact that they can win, 4 in a row with like 2 of their best guys out, that's a heck of a performance. I think people were looking for any excuse to get back on the Eagles bandwagon. Here we go. This line might get to 10, and at 10, I see real value on the Bears. Okay, so I'm going to project this 27 for Philly, 20 for the Bears, slightest lean to the Dogs, slightest lean to the under, and that's it. All right, guys, every Monday, what we do in our conversation thread with these videos, and you can go there directly at pregamevideos.com, is we give you a free roll. Guess the score of the game. All you got to do is reply to the post. It's free. Get it right. Get it exactly right. You win 100 pregame dollars to spend any way you want. This is a free roll, and last week we had a winner, $100. He won from last Monday night's game. You can too. Talk to you there.